We are
We're
live.
live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the guest pod. I am JT Dubs, and with me is my friend Phoenix Rose.
Hello.
Phoenix is coming on today, and we are going to talk about some classic horror cartoons. But
Yes.
first, we're going to go ahead and send that link out onto social media, get people watching.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see real quick. As soon as we do that, we can start talking, though.
Alrighty. I'm a Gen Zer, so I'm gonna be putting everything out on my smartphone.
Oh, yeah, you are a Gen Zer,
mm-hmm.
unlike me. I'm an actual millennial, so when old people are complaining, they're complaining about me and not you.
Yeah. The thing is, like, with Gen Z, there's not enough of us are adults that like we have any like defining characteristics of our generation. So like
Yeah, that's true. I guess is Vine more of y'all's thing than ours? I don't know. I mean, like the age difference is almost like not even
yeah,
really
I mean
there. That it's hard. I mean, we've seen all the same stuff pretty much.
like, I think that at least for like people like me who are a little bit older, like on the cusp of Gen Z and millennials, uh, I mean, we're exposed to pretty much the same content. We get all the same pop culture references. I mean,
Yeah,
you
as long as you
know.
understand the same SpongeBob references, I don't see a generational gap. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So Phoenix, before we get started, was there anything you wanted to introduce yourself to the audience for? I know I usually when I talk to my guests, I like to talk to them about what is your background with this subject matter? Basically, for these old cartoons, what got you into animation, and why did you pick watching these old cartoons with me over like a movie or something? What stood out to you about animation that you want to come and talk to me about today on the podcast for?
Well, the thing is, a lot of these cartoons are very nostalgic for me. A lot of these are things that I watched as a kid. My dad would like, he had like box collections of like the like, old Mickey Mouse cartoons. He had box collections of old Betty Boop cartoons, and like, of course, he exposed me to like stuff like Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is newer, kind of weird stuff. So like, I mean, it's definitely a nostalgia thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I grew up watching a lot of just random stuff on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, and it's
Yeah.
weird because TV networks now are a lot more structured in what they play. But I remember Cartoon Network back in the early 2000s when I would watch. I mean, they would show just random cartoons that I like. I have recollection of them, but I really don't know what like where they came from or why they were on there. And then if you watch like Adult
Yeah.
Swim now, Adult Swim is pretty unstructured. It's probably the
No,
last
dude.
cartoon channel that truly has that unstructured, weird format.
Yeah, no, I think that's why I still appreciate Adult Swim so much and like still enjoy watching a lot of what's on Adult Swim. Um I really do kind of enjoy that kind of unstructured, like, just throw whatever the fuck you want to out there and just soak up the weirdness, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially with Adult Swim being so close, like to where I live, with it being in Atlanta and all that. I
Yeah.
know for a fact I would love to put some of my projects out there on Adult Swim someday. That's
Yeah.
probably the first place I would go to for something like for an actual TV station. I would want to
Yeah,
put some of my
no,
content on because my
definitely.
sense of humor and style really fits with That mostly because that's the type of
Can
stuff
see
I
that.
just grew up watching.
Yeah. Fun fact, actually, my father almost worked for Adult Swim. He almost wrote for what was it? Space Ghost to Coast to Coast.
Oh shit, that's awesome. So
Yeah, no.
what ended up happening? Why did that not work out?
Me. Hello.
Well, that's a pretty good reason though. I
I
mean, there's
mean,
not
yeah.
a ton of good reasons to not work on Adult Swim, but I
But
think
like,
that you're a
yeah.
pretty good reason. So
I mean, fair. Having your kid to like take care of and look after. I mean, that's a pretty good reason. And he was also working like a couple of other jobs, and I mean, he'd be a writer. So I mean, and it would just be for like one show. So I don't think he was getting paid like all too much.
a lot of those animation show writers they don't get paid very well.
They don't.
I'm pretty sure that the SpongeBob writers from the first couple seasons they've come out and said like, yeah, we were getting paid like next to nothing for such an
Yeah.
important job. Like
No.
they were saying because of like how much our work has been worth that we would probably be considered one of the like lowest paid people on the planet just
Yeah.
based off of what we did. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
No.
I
I
mean, it's a
mean,
tough
like,
industry. Like they don't get paid very well at
yeah.
all.
And I mean, like, it's incredibly important. I mean, like, what what cartoon is what cartoon is without its writing?
Oh yeah, for sure. I guess we can see a little bit when we talk about some of these older cartoons, but
Yeah.
cartoons in general, they started off so much more about like the music that was going along with it, and
Yes.
it's become a lot more dialogue and like writing heavy
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
last couple decades as opposed to how when it started.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and there's still like some silent cartoons like Pingu, for example, which we are going to talk about today. Uh like Pingu is totally silent. They just make sounds at each other. But I mean, just like watching that evolution is incredibly interesting and something that I've always been fascinated by.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the techniques have evolved and changed so much. I mean, especially
Yeah.
even in our lifetimes, the way that they animate is so different now.
Oh
It's such a
yeah, no.
fascinating genre in general.
I mean, and a lot of that can be attributed to like the rise of like computer generated stuff like CGI and like how technology has progressed throughout our lifetimes.
Oh
It's
yeah,
ridiculous, really.
oh yeah, and not even the CGI so much as just the fact that everything, even traditional animation, is done with computers now, and there's been a huge takeover in the industry of like Flash. Like Flash is used on a ton of stuff, which tends to not look as
Yeah.
good. It's really cheap. So I think that could be something to look into is the fact that a lot of animation jobs probably are starting to not necessarily go away, but the traditional animation in it itself, like the 2D animation, really is kind of dying, which is sad. It's been dying since the early 2000s, and
Yeah.
really, I hope that it has a resurgence or sticks around better because it's such a great form of animation. And I mean,
Yeah.
I know
I
it's
mean,
a little bit more expensive, but it's
mhm.
great. Like it looks awesome. Like shows
Yeah.
like Adventure Time and Regular Show and all
Classics.
those. Well, yeah, I mean they're classics now, but I mean even then they still kept that genre alive, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, like, and I think that honestly, it could just be because I grew up watching so much of it and being exposed to so much of it. But in all honesty, 2D animation is so much prettier to me than 3D animation and like CGI. Like, I
Yeah, they're
don't know.
different. I
They're
think
different, but like,
yeah.
I guess it's just more aesthetically pleasing to me. It's something that I prefer the look of more. I mean, again, probably nostalgia driven, but
Well, I think the difference is that the 2D animation really does emulate like a drawing or a painting in a way
yeah.
that uh, 3D animation really does try to emulate more of a realistic look. And they're good in
Mhm.
totally different ways. You just can't have one totally replace the other because that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
totally different.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. Here, give me like 3 seconds. I still haven't sent out the link on Snapchat.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
We are having some technical difficulties.
In the meantime, is there anything else in terms of your interest in animation that you want to share with the audience before we go ahead and start the reviews? Or
I mean, it's just been, I guess, nostalgia watching it for so long. I mean, that's really been it.
would you ever have, or better yet, here's a better question:
Mhm.
if you were to ever work in the animation industry, what part, like what job would you want to have if you did?
That's hard. I would probably want to be a voice actor or probably somewhere in sound design.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Being a voice actor would be really nice.
What about you?
I mean, all of it's really fascinating to me. I mean, I think I'm decent with computers, but I could never do a computer job. I don't think it wouldn't really be my main interest. So maybe not an animator, but like a storyboarder would be really cool because you can. It's sort of like drawing a comic almost, in that you know show each frame.
Yeah. No,
So
yeah.
yeah, maybe storyboard artist, either that or writer or voice actor would be fun too. So I mean, it's all really cool. Even though I focus more on live action film type stuff, I definitely would love to break into the animation industry someday at some point, because I think it's equally as interesting, but from a totally different way.
Yeah, for sure. Here, we're gonna do the Gen Z thing. Strike a pose, my dude.
You want me to strike a pose?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do this thing. Yeah, I don't know if that's, you and I are both at like the same end of millennial versus Gen Z. I'm like the end of millennial, and you're beginning of Gen Z.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we can act like we're different generations from each other.
No, it just kind of blends.
Yeah, I mean, we were in high school at the same time, so it's kind of the same.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
But yeah, if you're done sending out the link, then we can go ahead and get started talking about each of these cartoons.
Alrighty, give me 3 seconds. Hold up.
Send it out on Snap.
There we go. Alrighty. Got to do a GIF that says slide up.
It's a weird moment when your own video pops up in your subscription feed on your phone. I'm like, it's like JT Dubs is doing a live stream. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm doing the live stream.
Heck yeah.
What would you say is your favorite animated movie, since we're talking about animation?
Oh, that's hard.
Just first thing pops in your head. It doesn't have to be like your all-time favorite.
Spirited Away, or My Neighbor Totoro. Anything Studio Ghibli is absolutely fantastic. If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's great. 10 out of 10. Everything by them. It's amazing. Yeah. What about you?
It's legit. Yeah, it's such a hard question.
Yeah.
Probably, if I had to think like on the spot, like, I don't know, like there's so many good ones. But probably like either Toy Story or Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the early Pixar is like some of my favorite, just movies in general.
No, for sure. Like, good stuff.
And the animation has aged really well too. Which like CGI really doesn't age very well generally, but the way Pixar did it in the early 2000s, by picking things to animate that worked well, like toys or fish or whatever, that like you could animate, they're cartoony enough, but like you could put it in a realistic setting. So I think they did a great job with that.
Yeah. No,
all right, let's talk about Mickey Mouse and the Haunted House.
Yes.
You picked this, so why don't you go ahead and start off talking about your thoughts on it?
This is some OG Walt Disney shit right here. all this stuff is very nostalgic for me, but this one especially, that one and the one we're going to talk about next, just very nostalgic. So should I just give a brief summary?
Yeah, give a brief summary. I know I'm trying to keep this review kind of shorter, so let's maybe only spend 5-ish minutes on each one, if we can just kind of keep it concise.
Yeah, definitely. So in this one, Mickey gets lost. It's like raining real hard, and this boy, he straight trespasses in a spooky old house, and he just bumps into a cloaked figure, and whenever he tries to run away, the cloaked figure just like takes him, puts him in front of an organ, and is like, play. And they, a bunch of spooky skeleton boys start dancing.
That's what I was thinking of when I was watching it, was the spooky, scary skeletons.
Scary skeletons. Yeah, no. It's excellent, but yeah, that's pretty much the entire thing.
If I may chime in, I think my favorite part was when the skeletons are just like, they're playing each other like xylophones.
Yes.
But like some of them are like tapping on each other's like asses and stuff. I'm like, it's so weird. Like,
yes.
And just like, and they're using like their heads and of course their rib cages, and it's funny, like Disney can manage to make just even the most like weird, horrific stuff just like really joyful and happy.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of thought about that too. Like, even as a child, like this kind of like horror scene, like it starts out like a horror movie, kind of suspenseful. Like he's kind of creeping through the house, and there's a bunch of like bats and stuff. He's getting startled, and I just remember like the film getting to the music, the part where the music comes in, and I remember like it was great.
Oh yeah, it's really whimsical, which is not true of the rest of these cartoons so much, but this one in particular, very whimsical, very Disney. I also like the fact this was 1929, wow, 90 years ago. So I'm pretty sure that at this point, Mickey Mouse was being voiced by Walt Disney, which is pretty cool, because I was listening into his voice, because it's very animation heavy, or very visual heavy. There's very little dialogue. There's like maybe 2 or 3 lines of dialogue, and his voice sounds so cracky. Like, he doesn't sound like the current Mickey Mouse, which is like the voice has been perfected. He just sounds like some dude sounding like this. Like,
yeah, no, I love it though. It's awesome.
The animation's so fluid. Like, even by today's standards, I'm like, this is really quality animation.
Like, this is 1930. Okay. Yeah, it's crazy, honestly. I think that's really all I have to say about that one. Do you want to jump into Minnie the Moocher?
Yeah, I thought it was funny that we were doing a Mickey Mouse one, and there was also one with the name Minnie in it, but it wasn't Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Betty Boop. The beginning is really weird, because it's like her parents are yelling at her, and at first I thought it was in a different language, because I could not understand what they were saying.
No, it is in a different language. It's in Yiddish. Her parents are Jewish.
Oh. So they were going for cultural insensitivity kind of.
Yes, thing. They were.
That explains a lot
today.
Because, well, I some of the words I thought I heard them say something in English, so I was like, I guess it's English, but they're like mumbling. Like, I was like, is the audio messed up? Like,
no.
But that explains it. Okay,
I was
Yiddish.
Like, it's Yiddish.
And then at first I was like, is this like a foreign version? And the flower pops up and starts speaking to her in English, and I'm like, I guess it's in English. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like.
Yeah, weird. No, it's it's a lot from start to finish. So if you remember, it opens with Cab Calloway. Cab Calloway, by the way, that's like what this entire cartoon revolves around. It's awesome. I love it. But it opens with Cab Calloway and his band performing St. James Infirmary, and if you notice, there's some similarity between the walrus that's like dancing and singing Minnie the Moocher like towards the end, and Cab Calloway's like moves.
That was my question for you. I don't know if you know this or not, But I was going to ask, was that motion capture they were doing with the walrus's body? Because I noticed it looked, if you look at his legs, and maybe you'll have to watch it
Yes.
again, but there's
It's
some. It
a
looks very mocap.
Yeah, it's a very very early version of mocap. Um, this is 1932, so but
Yeah, I
it's
have no idea how that would have worked back then. Like
yes.
I could
Um,
guess, but I have no clue to be
so what
honest.
they did is they watched like Cab Calloway performing and dancing on stage, and the animators tried to like they watched that and they tried to like draw it like just down so that the walrus would have similar moves, and like
Okay,
that's crazy to me.
I have a question. Do you think? Now this is all speculation because I haven't looked into it, but
Mhm.
do you think that perhaps they took they filmed him
Mhm.
dancing, took the film and maybe traced the movement from each frame of the film, and
That
like
could
they
be it.
traced it and then put it into the animation?
Yeah,
Because that
that could be
definitely
it.
seems like a trick that they would have done in the 30s.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure myself, but I mean that seems entirely plausible. But there is a lot of similarities between Cab Calloway and the Walrus. Also, in that part, if you look behind Cab and you look at the drummer, like that lad is having so much fun. He's just like doing tricks, like
Oh yeah, they
it's great.
definitely there was a lot of fun had by whoever was making this.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. But so just quick rundown. Betty gets yelled at by her very strict Jewish parents, and she runs away from her dog, her boyfriend, her
He's kind of both actually.
her dog boyfriend, Bill Bimbo.
Yeah, his name's Bimbo, which
Yeah,
already that's another thing.
that's
And
yeah.
then and then he's yeah. At first, I thought the boyfriend was gonna show up, and it's a dog, and I'm like, okay. And then at the very end, they run back, and he runs into the doghouse, and I'm like, okay, so he is the dog. But then another dog, and a more realistic dog, comes out, and I'm like, is this the like goofy Pluto like parallels here? Like, cause that's I
This
don't
is
know.
it's just like I mean like I really I don't know. But yes, her dog boyfriend Bimbo. They they run off. It storms like in all of these really, but they end up taking shelter in a cage, a cave. I can't talk today. Where they find a walrus with Cab Calloway's voice, and he starts singing Minnie the Moocher, and is soon joined by some spooky, scary skeleton boys.
Yeah, a lot of. I guess they really thought skeletons were scary in the 1930s.
Yeah, no, they were all into the spooky, scary skeletons. Like those were the lads, my dude.
And then
And
the skeletons all drink like I'm guessing beer or something because
yeah, no,
you
no,
could
it's
totally
liquor. It's
yeah.
liquor.
Well, okay, well you could totally just show alcohol in old cartoons because they didn't give a shit. But then their bodies turn black,
Black.
and then their
And
spirits, their ghosts come out
yeah,
of them, and I'm like, I thought they were already dead. Like
yeah.
what?
No, it's yeah, good meme. But this part's okay. This next part kind of freaked me out as a kid. It's like the it's a soulless cat and her kittens, and her kittens feed through her, and she like becomes weaker and weaker, and all of her kittens become like bigger and stronger, and like just watching these tiny kittens like devour the life essence of this soulless cat is like I think that's freaky at any age.
It's like an actual parent made this, and she was just like, these kids are ruining my life. They're sucking the life out of me. Just put it into the animation.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a parallel to how Betty is sucking the life force out of her Jewish parents.
Or their parents are sucking the life force out of her. I don't know. I felt like at the very end I wasn't sure because I was like, is the message of this short?
I think the message
Stay with your abusive parents because life could be so much worse in the outside world. Like that's what I was thinking. I was like, it's kind of a weird message, but I mean, I guess it fits with the times. I don't know.
I think that the message of this entire cartoon is Cab Calloway's awesome, and that's about it.
And if you're dating a dog, maybe you shouldn't go out to the outside world because you
Yeah,
might have something wrong with you.
yeah. Fun fact. The song "Minnie the Moocher" is just laden with drug references.
Yeah, I could tell. I was like, because the first time around, I'm like, I'm not sure I understand all these lyrics, but I know there's gonna be some deeper, like really dark, weird meaning behind them. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
revisit it, honestly.
yeah. It's like it talks about how Minnie's boyfriend Smokey, he's a coker, and that means he likes the white powdery stuff. He's really into it. It's
They
his
were
favorite
really
thing.
just not subtle at all back then.
Oh no,
Like, it's
no,
great.
they were not. It's fantastic. I love it. I mean, cartoons weren't. They were meant for adults. They weren't meant for kids, especially Betty Boop. She was
I
a
know.
sex icon, and
Oh
like,
yeah. Well, that's what's weird is that somehow, somewhere in the 20th century, I guess the latter half of the 20th century, I don't know where it was, but
mm-hmm.
somehow somebody thought, okay, cartoons are now for kids. And what's annoying to
Yeah,
me is like, as much as I love adult cartoons nowadays, a lot of them are so lazy in the animation department. You know, they're
yeah.
basically live. They're basically cartoon versions of sitcoms, which is, you know, very standard shots, very,
God,
you
yes.
know, like, you know, very stiff movement. And it's like I want to see more adult cartoons with fluid movement, like very, like active animation,
Yeah,
like, you know, and
like
that seems to be just
I
more
want
for
more
kids
adults.
animation now.
Yeah, I want more Adult Swim, please.
Oh yeah, even then though, a lot of Adult Swim cartoons are more kind of sitcom-y now.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotta like dig through and find the good stuff. I mean,
I just want some
but
wackiness in my adult cartoons, like,
yeah, me too, honestly.
because it's like if you look at like Family Guy animation, it's like just it's so standard and so like it's literally
Yeah,
shot like a sitcom, and it's like no,
and it's yeah,
I want some rubbery, you know, I want some
yeah. I
Tom
want
and
some
Jerry shit
like
in there, like
yeah. No, yeah, I get what you're saying exactly, but like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Speaking of how like animation has changed just in general, we want to move on to our next cartoon.
yes, I guess if we're talking about big changes, there's quite a time jump between Betty Boop and Pingu, because that's about, let's see, 32 to 91. That's like 60 years difference.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess I don't know. I guess there wasn't really a ton in that in between time period that we could really get
Well,
into.
I mean, like, not that was necessarily noteworthy as far as like kind of creepy stuff goes. Um,
I think a big part of it is that in that time period, animation really was shifting more and more each decade to be more for kids.
yeah,
And then in the 90s, like because the 80s really was the cartoons were very focused on kids. I know there was a
yeah.
lot of trippy weird animation and stuff in the 80s too,
But
but
like,
the 90s had really weird stuff in
yeah,
it in terms
really,
of
really weird
animation.
stuff, like for kids, and like,
Yeah, it was finally they had just merged it, and it was like okay,
yeah,
and it was really the only decade, maybe some of the early 2000s as well, but it was the only decade where they kind of merged that like weird creepiness, unsettling
mm-hmm.
aspect of adult cartoons and put it into like kids time slots. So that's
Yeah.
kind of why our generation is pretty fucking weird.
I mean, that's a theory, but
I mean, our minds were shaped by some of these weird ass cartoons in the 90s.
I mean, for sure, that is, yeah,
So
most definitely.
what are your thoughts on Pingu? Tell me about Pingu.
All right, so this specific episode is Pingu's Dream in this 1991. The only note I have for this is holy fuck.
That was my first thought too.
uh I came upon I this is not something that I watched as a kid. This is not something that's nostalgic for me. I came across this whenever I watched I Hate Everything's childhood trauma video.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
And
Yeah.
I
That
decided,
explains where I had seen this before because I did
yes,
remember this.
yes. And of course the good Metal Gear, that Metal Gear. Are we okay today? The Metal Gear Solid meme.
Yes.
Very nice. But so this cartoon, I watched that, and I just decided to watch the whole thing for myself just because why not? And it's weird. It's fucking weird. From beginning to end, it's fucking weird.
Oh yeah. Well, have you ever seen the old short? Well, did you have you ever heard of Buster Keaton?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Have you seen Steamboat Bill?
Steamboat Willie.
Is it Willie or Bill? I feel like it was Bill,
I think it
but
was Willie.
no. Steamboat Willie is the first Mickey Mouse appearance.
Facts.
Yes.
I'm over here in cartoon land.
But Steamboat Bill, I think it's either
Mhm.
Steamboat Bill or Steamboat Bill Jr. He
Yeah,
did a lot of juniors on the name. I don't know.
he
But
did.
Buster Keaton was a huge inspiration of mine. I love his work. I learned about
Mhm.
him probably my freshman year in film school. But what is so cool about his work is that like he did live action shorts in the I guess it was the 30s, I think, maybe the late
Mhm.
20s, and they're like cartoons in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
They're so I mean there's so much more based on slapstick and the visuals and the
Yeah.
music, but
And this man did his own stunts.
oh yeah,
Ridiculous.
probably the best stuntman of all time.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean he totally fucked up his body in the process,
he
but it was great.
did. But yeah.
So, but this Pingu animation reminds me a lot of Steamboat Bill because first of all, you
Mhm.
have like what see, I mean, it's supposedly like kind of haunted, but it looks like the wind like takes his igloo away first. So
Mhm.
that's very Steamboat Bill because Steamboat Bill he's in the middle of like a tornado or something or some
Yeah,
yeah like some big
and it
storm I
just.
forget. Yeah, so like the walls are flying away, and then
Mhm.
the way the bed comes to life and moves around and stuff, that reminded me a lot of Steamboat Bill. This is
Mhm.
obviously more horror, and that was more of just a freaky like man versus weather kind of thing, or
Yeah.
man versus nature type of story. But I still thought visually, especially with how it's claymation, so it's very stop motion.
Mhm.
That reminded me a lot of just that sort of movement, the way the frame rates were and all that. Like it reminds me
Mhm.
a lot visually. It just sort of hit me with that Steamboat Bill, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of it's
Heard.
a little Buster Keaton going on there.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I hadn't even thought of that, but
But let's
yeah.
talk about the elephant in the room or the walrus in the room.
All right, so let's just do a quick synopsis of this horrible cartoon. So it starts out. Pingu is arguing with his parents, and
That seems to
he,
be an ongoing theme with these cartoons.
yeah, maybe because I argued with my parents a lot.
A lot of parent arguing in
Oh
these.
yes, yeah, no, but yeah. So he argues with his parents. They send him to bed, and he starts dreaming, and like his igloo gets whisked away, and his bed comes to life, and like starts like it's really, I kind of like how his bed moves. Honestly, like it's
Yeah, it moves.
very,
It moves very like fluid, and it's like
yeah,
the bed kind of it rounds up, and then it goes flat, and then it goes down, and
yeah,
it moves like it's the legs are like actual legs, like it's a spider
yeah.
kind of
It,
thing.
it like the bed moves like it's like, actually living, and I mean like, yeah, it's very interesting. Like when the walrus pops up, like it actually like reacts and like pulls back, which is interesting and very fun to watch. But so the bed comes to life. It's wiggling around. Pingu, that, and then like this fucking walrus, like he just peeps around the corner and is like creeping on my boy Pingu.
His head just kind of pops out, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
what's
and you're
that?
just like, what the fuck is that? No, no, this is no, no.
His fucking Steve Harvey mustache. Like I'm
Yeah,
just like, oh no,
yeah, yeah,
no, please no. Don't talk. Don't look at me. Don't you look at like everything up to that point. I was like, this isn't scary. This is like just This
This
is
is
just pretty
fine.
standard. This is some
And
standard
then this
kids, some
fucking
standard
walrus pops up.
fucking kid shit, and then all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, that's a little too uncanny valley. I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah. But so it goes back down. It keeps stalking my boy, and so Pingu and Bed go towards like a cliff, and all of a sudden this fucker like pops all the way up, and he's chasing Pingu, yes, Pingu, and he's like this boy in full pursuit. He's trying to fucking eat the bed, eat anything. Like he's obviously trying to munch on that ass, and like. I don't think there's anything scarier than a fucking Steve Harvey looking ass walrus like going after my boy Pingu. Like, no.
And he just like picks up Pingu and he kind of like stretches him, like shows us that he's like
Yes!
clay, and it's like,
No, this is so uncomfortable.
it's just like, it's the ultimate like monster in the closet, but like mixed with like, oh, there's a creeper looking at me, like kind of just like, it's a mixture of all those different kinds of fears.
Yeah.
But it's presented in a very plain way. Like the background doesn't get dark and creepy. There's no lightning. It's just like
Yeah.
it's just this normal environment with some weird shit happening.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting to me. Like it's like the entire environment the entire time is very like clear. Like everything's okay. And like maybe that's to like keep the kids from getting scared. I don't know, because Pingu is for like 3-year-olds.
Yeah, I don't. It's really weird. It's like, and the early '90s, I think they just had so little awareness of like what they really wanted to show kids, and
Yeah,
I don't really know what the. Where is this cartoon from? Is it from the UK or
it's double guess.
Canada or?
I think it's from. That's a good question.
Like, I don't think it's American.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like Canadian.
Because if it was somewhere other than here, there's probably even less regulations of what you like had to show back then. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like, yeah, that fucked me up as an adult. I can't imagine watching that as a kid.
Oh yeah, it's like, I mean, the first half I'm just kind of like, okay, this is whatever. It's just Pingu, and then I mean, really, if you took the walrus out, none of it would be that weird. It would just be like wacky hijinks.
But like, that fucking walrus.
And if they made him look normal, then there would be nothing wrong with it.
Yes, no, it's like, it's awful. Yeah. I love it though.
Absolutely.
10 out of 10.
For sure. All right, moving on to our last cartoon. We're going to talk about the most recent one, which 17 years ago, so not that recent, but Courage the Cowardly Dog, which I definitely remember as a kid and definitely gave me nightmares as a kid.
Yes. So this is the season finale for season 1. Yeah, season 1. Remembrance of Courage Past and Perfect. And
did you want to talk about both of them or just one?
Since it's a 2-parter kind of, I kind of want to talk about both of them, but I want to focus a little bit more on Perfect, just because that's the one that's more nightmare-inducing, and that's the one that I relate to more. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, the Remembrance of Courage's Past is more, I guess, lore-heavy because it actually reveals backstory about the main character.
Yeah. So, like, little homie, he sees like a milk carton, and it's like for a lost puppy, and it sends him into like a PTSD like flashback, where he's like watching his parents get kidnapped by like a mad scientist vet before his very eyes and sent into space while he was a puppy. Like, what the fuck? I mean, no wonder this guy is like always anxious. That would fuck anybody up. I mean, shit.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then he tries finding them, and he's like running to each door, and he's like in this hallway maze.
No,
and it's really, and then it's weird too because the flashbacks, it's like the animation quality goes way down.
Yeah.
I think it was on purpose, but it was funny. I noticed. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, the animation quality goes down a lot for the flashbacks. I
I
guess
thought that
it's
was kind of
maybe it's to sort of show that how memories are usually not very clear, so it would
yeah,
kind of show up not being super clear. But yeah, it's
yeah,
and it what I like about it from a storytelling perspective is I love because this is out of all of the cartoons we've talked about probably has the most coherent story.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Probably because it was made later on and it probably had more writers, whereas these other ones were
Yeah,
probably
it actually,
someone
yeah,
probably
it
just
actually
got high
had.
and animated, whereas this one was probably like they were on drugs but they wrote a script for it kind of thing. But
Fair. Yeah. Actually, this is the only one out of these that actually had a writer. John Dilworth is the director, and Stephen Cohen wrote the script.
nice. But
So
yeah, I like from a story perspective though how it chooses to go back and forth between the flashbacks and doesn't just have one moment where you get the flashback because you get to see the cool parallels between the flashback and when he actually re-encounters the mad scientist, and it's
yeah,
almost like the flashback fills us in on the information as the story is progressing, which is
yeah,
pretty cool
yeah,
non-linear storytelling, which is I like
yeah.
it.
I really like that, and I think like, I mean, sorry, my cat's doing something weird. But I mean, like, it's it's very interesting, and again, it's very like it's almost as if Courage has like PTSD, and he's like having PTSD like flashbacks, and like that's what I found like really cool, like in both Remembrance and Perfect. It's like you're kind of like seeing how Courage works. You're seeing like his problems and what he deals with, and like I found that very interesting.
One of the comments I read on the video, which was actually kind of how I felt too, was like as a kid you watch it and the show just kind of freaks you out and you just think it's nightmare fuel. But
Mm-hmm.
like as an adult you watch it and I mean both of these shorts have very like a lot of relatability for someone who's dealt with PTSD or anxiety or
Yeah.
uh like any or even some like depression. I know like Perfect really the next one we'll talk about. I
Yeah.
guess let's finish up talking about this other one first.
Yeah.
So, Remembrance of Courage's Past, like I said, it's a little bit more on the like lore side as opposed to like really like looking into a deeper theme or idea.
Yeah.
But
But I mean,
basically, but the ending was pretty fucked up. He sends
yeah.
he sends the mad scientist back, and then I'm pretty sure like all the
Yeah, no,
dogs
all
just
the
like
dogs like
murder this dude.
yeah,
Like
no, they beat
I'm
the
just
fuck
like
out
he's
of
the
him.
villain and he deserves it, but like oh, in a kids cartoon, I don't necessarily want to see
Yeah,
someone
no,
get
dude,
murdered. But
it's messy, dude. I love it. But
yeah.
yeah.
It's very bold. I wish, I really, I guess Cartoon Network does still do stuff like this kind of with Adventure Time, and well, even though I guess that's over, but
Yeah.
Cartoon Network never truly outgrew the weird, unknown, kind of creepy stuff. But it definitely
Yeah.
doesn't focus on it nearly as much as it used to. And I
No,
definitely
definitely
think
not.
cartoons as a whole have gotten so. I mean, not to say that they're bad. There's a lot of like high quality cartoons that come out now, but they're definitely a lot of them are definitely made a lot more on the safe side,
For sure.
which I guess as an adult I don't like, but I guess from the standpoint of like I'm sure parents would probably prefer stuff like this to not be shown to their kids now, which I can kind
Yeah.
of understand
Yeah, I
because
know. For sure.
I'm sure this one gave me a nightmare when I was a kid. I do remember watching these
Hmm.
two episodes specifically, so
Yeah. Weird flex, but I Courage never freaked me out as a kid.
really,
Yeah, I just thought it was cool.
I was a really wimpy kid, so so Courage scared the shit out of me. But I will say
Yeah.
Scooby Doo never did, so
There was one. It was like one Scooby Doo movie that freaked me out as a kid, but like it wasn't that bad.
well, I think what freaked me out about Courage was never the creepy imagery because you see that in a lot of cartoons. Like,
Yeah.
there's a couple little images that are really unsettling. For me, what always was unsettling and creepy about Courage the Cowardly Dog was that Courage is constantly miserable. He's constantly in pain and unhappy.
Yeah.
And to me, that was what was unsettling about it because seeing someone who you care about, even if he's just a cartoon character, in
In
constant
constant
pain, and
pain.
not like
Yeah.
not in like a Looney Tunes like oh you got hit with a hammer kind of thing, like
Like
Courage is in legit like
pain.
he's in legit like psychological trauma
Hmm.
every episode, that was
Yeah.
what like really like even watching some of Perfect tonight when I was watching it, I was like I got emotionally invested and I was like, oh, this is really like stressful and kind of
Yeah, no,
like I'm
it's
enjoying it, but it kind of part of it does kind of hurt a little bit watching.
yeah, no, Perfect definitely it hurts to watch.
So
It
go into
really
detail about the
really
plot.
hurts to.
Talk about Perfect some.
All right, so him and he's like helping Eustace out in the farm, and Eustace is like he messes something up, and Eustace is just like, "You're fucking useless!" Ah! And
I
then he
know he's
goes
such an
inside.
asshole.
Yeah, and then he goes inside and tries to help Muriel out because she's making like baklava or
Yeah, she's
something
making
like that.
baklava.
Yeah, she's making baklava, and like he fucks something up, and he's just like, "Oh fuck, I can't do anything right," and like big feels, but through that he gets his an imaginary pal called the
So she is. So she is.
Perfectionist.
So she is imaginary then.
Yeah,
I couldn't
it
tell at
doesn't.
first.
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem like Muriel Murray. It doesn't really seem like Muriel or Eustace can see her, so I think she is imaginary.
Yeah, it's interesting because they present it in a way that makes it feel real to the story, but at
Yeah,
the same time, I definitely like by the end thought that this had to be imaginary.
yeah, yeah,
Also, Courage very well might have some kind of schizophrenia, which I feel like is sort of inferred in some of the episodes. So this could
yeah,
be a whole other personality or sort of like person he's seeing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe, but like, and I mean, like that was yeah, but I mean, and even like if you think about that in terms of like somebody who's actually dealing with anxiety, it's like your anxiety does seem very, very, very real to you, but to everyone around you, it's
That's
there's
very true.
nothing there. I mean,
Not only
and
that, but it is personified in a way.
yeah,
Even if it's
sometimes, yeah,
personified in you, it's still a voice.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
experienced with anxiety personally is that sometimes there is a voice that is telling you you're not good enough or telling you,
yeah,
especially when tells him he's not perfect, because that's there would be no class that would ever teach you to be perfect, but that
yeah,
is like that idea of perfection, which everyone has
yeah,
a certain view of it in their mind, but it's totally impossible to achieve for anybody.
yeah. But she goes on to like she's going to like teach him how to be the perfect dog or whatever. And she gives him incredibly difficult tasks. She scolds him and she punishes him and she compares him to her other students and like whenever he messes up. And like a lot of the tasks she gives him are like things that he's almost like bound to mess up the first time. And like
Yeah, she has him balancing books on his head, but then has him go up the stairs. Like no one's going to be able to
yeah,
balance
no.
that when you're going upstairs because that's
She
not level walking.
yeah, she has him like make a whole like tiny version of the Eiffel Tower, like
Out of toothpicks,
out of
like
toothpicks, and like when he fucks it up, she like compares him to another pupil who like did way better than him, and like
which was the most '90s joke in the whole thing. I guess it was 2000s, but like it was just this
mm,
dude. He's just like, "Sup, bro," or whatever. He's like, "I did it
like
perfectly." Like
the
it's the most.
Chad TM.
Yeah, it was such a Chad moment. I'm like, that's a little bit of that like '90s 2000s jokes like screaming
Yeah,
in because
for
everything else was
sure,
really
for sure.
timeless. Like everything else seemed timeless, but that one joke, I was like, there's that little bit of the '90s cheese thrown in there.
Yeah, but so the perfectionist eventually gets frustrated and tells him to just hit the hay and sleep perfectly. But
Oh, this
since
scene stressed me the fuck out.
no, yeah, no, this even as an adult, like this is a very stressful scene. But he he goes to sleep and has these like awful nightmares surrounding the fact that he's not perfect and it's like these weird CGI figures just like "You're not perfect." It's like,
Well,
bitch, I know.
each of the dreams had a different animation style. Like
Yeah,
I think
the
one was stop
CGI was most
motion.
memorable. Yeah,
Yeah, the CGI was the terrifying one, but one
yeah.
was like stop motion. There may have been another
Mhm.
CGI one, but that like one looked traditional like 2D animation, but it looked like they had kind of added another dimension
Yeah.
to it. It was really weird, but from an animation standpoint, it was all really cool. And
Mhm.
I think what's cool about Courage is that because of the fact that it's horror,
Mhm.
the bad CGI doesn't age because it's
Yeah.
supposed to look terrifying and bad. Like,
Mhm. But like, yeah, no, it's like those old. Have you ever stumbled across those really old, like really weird, like CGI YouTube
oh yeah, that
stuff?
was made like in the early 2000s
Yeah,
or
like potato conditions.
yeah, I don't know if I've seen that one, but I do know it. I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen like
Yeah.
pictures of it. It looks weird. Like,
Yeah, yeah, no, it ages well because it's supposed to be weird. It's supposed to be kind of unsettling, but like he
have you seen Xavier
Renegade
Renegade
Angel.
Angel?
Of course, I've seen Xavier Renegade.
Yeah,
I've
that's
seen
fucking
it.
amazing.
It's like the best meme ever. It hurts to watch, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, and the writing is great too because it's so random.
Hey JT, do you
Yeah.
believe in God?
Which episode is that from?
I don't know, to be honest. I just
Yeah.
remember like, do you believe in God? Yes. Do you believe in God? Yes. Do you
Actually, that would be
believe
a
in God?
great follow-up review. We definitely got to do some Xavier
Xavier
Renegade Angel at some point. Yeah, we absolutely have to talk about that show at some point.
we can, we have to trip acid while we watch it though.
That's like, yeah, that's pretty much the experience of how I think they made it.
Yeah, no, I think so too. But
Because that's the only way it would make sense for them when they made it. But
I
yeah,
mean,
I
yeah,
think that was the same era as Courage. Like it was like maybe not the same year, but
yeah, just about.
it was within 5 years at least of each other.
Yeah,
Because I think it was Adult Swim, and it was like just that like really low budget CGI, which
yeah,
like is so bad, but so
yeah.
good at the
No.
same time. But yeah, any last thoughts on Courage though
um,
before we wrap up?
yeah. So actually, I haven't even finished the synopsis. Oops. But he has all these fucking terrifying dreams. He gets up. The bitch is like, brush your teeth perfectly, and he's like,
Bruh, that fish was the real OG right there.
yeah, no, like a fish fucking comes out and he's like, bro, fucking nobody's perfect. Like, not me, not you, not nobody. And like, my homeboy Courage, he comes downstairs and like, Eustace is like, I think he's like got a fucked up bugle or something like that. I don't know. And like Muriel's got like some kind of shitty cooking, but like she's still fucking happy about it. She's like, damn, I'm imperfect, but I did the best I could. And
Yeah, it
Courage
was
is
like
just like,
the bugle and the baklava were both representations of Courage because they were imperfect, but they just learned to like him anyway.
yeah, yeah. But like, so the perfectionist comes back and she's just like, draw the number 6 perfectly. And then Courage just like fucking scribbles some shit, some like cartoons on a page, and then like
He like
fucking turns it over.
he folds it into a 6 and
Yeah, yeah, and then like she fucking melts and she's just like, you're not perfect.
I feel like that was almost like the creators saying that like art is not supposed to be perfect, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
Courage was making art in a way, and that was
Yeah,
it was so imperfect that it was cool, and that was what kind of destroyed the perfect little monster in his head. I don't know,
yeah,
but it was
yeah,
cool. That the little message there was really nice.
yeah. I really like that. I really like that episode. That's one that has always kind of stood out to me. But I mean, for obvious reasons.
I think for a lot of artistic people, you sort of feel like with that creative mindset, you want to like make your work perfect, but because it's art, it really can never be, and you can never
Yeah,
really make it like exactly perfect.
Yeah,
And I don't know,
and
it definitely seemed like it spoke to me creatively a lot.
yeah, same here. I have a lot of problems with anxiety, and I have a lot of problems with like desiring perfection. And of course that can't happen. I mean, I'm only human. I can only do the best that I can do. And like it's hard to come to terms with, but in a way like the imperfections that come with life, the imperfections especially that come with art are what make them unique and beautiful.
Absolutely. I feel like this episode also sort of was. I mean, I might be looking too deeply into this, but it felt like it was kind of a criticism of the public school system.
Yeah, okay. How would you say that?
Well, the classroom setting is a very dead giveaway, but the fact that she wanted him to do everything a specific way, and because he did it differently or his own way, she said it was wrong. When in reality, like his Eiffel Tower wasn't wrong. That was just the best he could do.
Mm-hmm.
The what was the what was the other thing he was doing? The books thing. That was an
Yeah.
impossible task that was given to him that was meaningless.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just to it's sort of like that it's like a political cartoon or a picture where it's like
Mm-hmm.
they have the monkey, the fish, the turtle, and the giraffe or whatever. I'm probably getting the animals wrong, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, all right, we're gonna judge you all based on how well you can climb a tree. And it's
Yeah.
like the monkey's like, yeah, I can do it perfectly, and the other ones are like, what the fuck? Like the fish
Mm-hmm.
can't fucking climb a tree. Like so
Yeah.
it's that idea of like the public school system is very rigid on what is correct and what is the right way when
Yeah.
people that are creative or just different or maybe don't learn
Yeah.
as well as
And I
others
mean like
are not stupid. They're
well,
not like dumb, but they
it's
just do
not
it
even
differently.
yeah, it's not even necessarily that that people that are more creatively inclined are like less intelligent than those people who are very very good at doing
Academics.
yeah they're
It's just different
the
types
academia boys.
different types of intelligence is all it is.
Yeah, and I mean like there's different ways to do everything like the world. There's so many people in the world and nothing is really black or white, and like the fact that we're taught from a very very early age that most things are black and white. Yes, there is a right answer, like there's a wrong answer. I mean, it's ridiculous, and
Yeah,
I think it's something that needs to change very very soon.
it
Or
won't, but
well,
probably won't. It
it's
probably
something
won't.
that needs to change. It's yeah.
But if you have more cartoons like this though, and more people that are willing to tell other people it's okay to be yourself, it's okay to be this way, then
Yeah.
you'll have less people that feel the need. But I definitely don't necessarily think the public school system will change anytime soon because
Mm.
it's not to get on a political rant or anything, but the public school system does in a lot of ways function to create the perfect citizen, which does not ask questions, does not question things, does is a perfect worker,
Yeah.
and that's why a lot of people go to college because college teaches you kind of the opposite of question
Hmm.
things, try to do things your own way, maybe don't look at things in black and white. And so I
Hmm.
think in general you do have to have cartoons like this and people out there
Yeah.
willing to say, hey, no, like listen, it's
Yeah.
cool to be yourself as long as you're like doing good and bringing out good things in yourself and in others. And
Yeah.
this got
And
very
like
like philosophical, but I mean I think that's kind of the message of the cartoon. So
yeah, yeah. And I mean like generally speaking, like as somebody who's coming from in an ever evolving, like just came out of an ever evolving school system. Um, I mean, it does seem like there are some changes that are being made. There are some things that we are definitely working towards, like as a school system. And I mean, there are alternative schools now. I personally went to an alternative school my senior year just because my anxiety and depression was so bad that I was barely functional. I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and like I I had just gotten out of the hospital, and like
Yeah, and you needed a different environment that
Yeah, I
wasn't
needed a different
gonna.
environment. So what that provided was like a smaller, like more tight knit environment. There were less
More supportive, I'm
opportunities.
guessing. More supportive
Very, very
community.
supportive. Yeah, and like, I mean, I feel very fortunate that I got the opportunity to be a part of that. But I mean, there's a lot of people who deal with a lot of depression and anxiety due to how rigid and how meticulous the school system is,
Well,
who
it creates
just
anxiety because
drops out.
when you feel like you're not conforming to that system that everybody is a part of, and you think other people are doing really well in it, and I mean, some are, but a lot of other people deal with the same anxieties. We just don't really talk about it or share it with each other.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think it's very important to share like your anxieties, what you struggle with, because I mean, to be honest, it gives you more of a perspective when like you share everything like that. I mean, everybody's dealing with something, and like, but like that doesn't lessen the value of like who you are, like what you're dealing with and everything like that. I mean,
Yeah, totally. And most people are dealing with it inside and not
mm-hmm.
outside. You have some people that are dealing with things outside, and you can see that, but the majority of us are dealing with things inside.
Yeah.
So you think everybody's fine, everybody's, it's just me that's feeling this way, but no, I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of other people feel the same way. They just don't want to talk about it, or they don't feel like they can because they don't want to be judged or
Yeah.
seen
And I
as
mean,
different.
sometimes it's hard, especially like when you're younger and you really like a lot of these feelings are very new and very scary. It's very hard to talk about them in a healthy manner, which I think is where things like therapy and especially group therapy, which I never got a chance to get into, would really help. Like you get a chance to like learn how to effectively communicate your feelings, like what you are going through and what you're struggling with, your weaknesses, and like how to effectively learn all that and communicate it to the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Therapy was definitely one of the best experiences I've had in my life in terms of just being able to come out and say things about myself. And I think it's really important too for people, especially now. I think a lot of mental health issues are on the rise because the fact that people are so introverted because of smartphones, social media. There's a lot of just burying yourself in a distraction and not
Yeah,
really learning to talk to others about it. And I think really it's important to find that balance of finding people that you can share your fears and anxieties with who also feel comfortable doing the same in return, because you
yeah,
do end up with a lot of people who just want to tell everybody their problems but never want to listen, and then you have some people that
yeah.
are always there to listen but then don't really want
Never,
to share.
yeah. And both of those are very problematic. I mean, you have to find a happy balance. I mean, you have to listen to other people's problems, and you have to like, especially the people like around you that really care about you, like you care about as well. Like you've got to listen to their problems. You've got to, I mean, you got it.
Oh
And
yeah,
like,
for sure.
and I mean, on the flip side, you can't, it's hard to be there for people when you can't even deal with your own problems yourself, and you can't even like vocalize your own problems yourself. I mean, what advice can you give to somebody if you're just as clueless?
And other times too, it's very easy to give other people advice. At least I don't know, personally, I've experienced this where I have no problem giving other people advice because I can look as an outsider on their problems and say, okay, this is what I would do. But then it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to give yourself the same advice because you're so much more biased by your own personal emotions and your own feelings towards yourself,
For
and
sure.
it's hard to give yourself that same kind of, I don't know, like love, I guess, that you can give to others. And
Yeah.
it's, I think part of getting older is learning how to treat yourself in a way that you would want to be treated, or that you would want to treat others. It's
Yeah.
almost like you have to have two versions of yourself, one that is like treating the other well, and then is the other one is I don't know, it's weird. It's like a
Yeah.
multiple sides of your personality, but you have to treat yourself like you're a person and not like you're just this avatar in this
Yeah.
simulation. Like you have to actually treat yourself like you are one of those people. I know
Yeah.
it's such a weird tangent to get on, but it's,
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
that's
I completely understand and actually like heavily relate with that. Like, I mean, I mean, I have problems like taking care of myself, loving myself, and like lately I've been just trying to like just focus on myself. I like try to learn how to meditate and like try to like really listen to myself and my body and what it's saying, and like it helps.
yeah. Sometimes you
Who
realize
would
you're
have
not.
thunk?
Yeah. Sometimes you realize you're not listening. You're like, well, and sometimes it's just really obvious things because you're like, well, maybe I should just listen to that what my body's telling me, like you were saying. Like
Mm-hmm.
if this is having negative consequences, maybe just don't do this anymore. And if
Yeah,
this is having positive results in my life, just
maybe
keep doing
start
that.
doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. But man, courage the cowardly dog, getting us off on a tangent about mental health. It's a
Did
good.
you say
It's a good.
did you say courage the cowardly god?
The listexia is very strong today, boys.
Yes.
But
Well, hey, yeah, I think that's all the time we have for today. I know we've gone over a little bit, but great
mhm.
discussion.
Yeah,
And I'd love to have
fantastic.
you on again sometime. We could definitely
Yeah,
do some
love
Xavier
to.
Renegade Angel, or
Yes,
have you back on
absolutely.
in October. Maybe we could do some more horror stuff. We'll just kind of
Yeah,
wait and see. But
definitely.
I'm trying to have more guests on, try to have more people on regularly, just to
Okay.
diversify, have new people on, and get different opinions and talk
Mhm.
about different types of film and animation, and
Mhm.
not just stick to the same structure every week or
Yeah.
month or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, I
so
think this is, yeah, I mean, this has definitely it deviates from the norm as far as what you usually do.
for sure. But it's good to have stuff that deviates from the norm.
Hmm.
You don't want to just do the same thing over and over.
No.
So, but thank you so much, Phoenix, for coming on.
Yeah,
Is
thank
there any
you.
last minute things you want to say about animation or courage or Pingu's walrus friend, or before we go?
um, I don't know, just smoke grass, eat ass, and sled fast.
Well, I wasn't expecting that, but hey, thank you guys for listening to the guest pod. I'm JT Dubs.
And I'm Phoenix Rose.
All right, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
Bye bye.